Hey, party people, you are about to listen to a podcast where I got to sit down with Alex Thomas. He is the CEO and founder of StealthNet.ai. It's an autonomous pen testing company that he founded. This is his second company. He did a previous iteration with a company called Red Century, which is still also successful. I give his intro in the front end of the podcast, but I just want to make a note that this episode was terrifying to me about the new attack surface that is happening with these LLMs. So hopefully there's some practical advice on how to protect yourself, but just some caveats about how fast this technology is moving and the risk that is being posed, not just to our data and our customers' data and just humanity in general. So please enjoy this podcast with Alex Thomas. All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. We are here with Alex Thomas. How are you, sir?
Doing great, Nick. Thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I want to start with this. So since we're going to be talking mostly AI, can I give the introduction that Grok gave me for you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is what. So Alex Thomas is the founder and CEO of Stealthnet AI and the CTO and founder of Red Century. He is an experienced ethical hacker and cybersecurity expert in background of pen testing for Fortune 500 companies. His interest in hacking began at age 12 after his game console was compromised by a hacking group called LuzSec, which sparked his passion for cybersecurity. Thomas holds a master's degree in information assurance and computer security from Dakota State University. Which like a top 2 program in the country, right? That's why
Very
you went
good.
there.
There are a lot of hackers out of there, and it's just like in the middle of, nowhere because it's South Dakota.
Yeah.
So there's just like a, hacking school, and then there's just, snow, cows, corn. That's about it.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. How a kid from South Florida gets to move to Dakota State is got to be good, right? So I
No.
understand. That's awesome. Well, what did I miss? Could you mind telling everybody a little bit about yourself and what do you got going at the second startup that you're leading?
Absolutely. First of all, Grok was scary accurate. That is just, crazy. So I'm not sure where it's pulling all of its information from, but I have to say that it was spot on everything.
It says 25 data sources, 25 web
25.
pages it referenced.
That is crazy. So I've been, building out StealthNet for the past 6 months now. We're building out AI agents, basically creating a fleet of these AI agents in order to automate a penetration testing. So it's like I'm basically building out a AI powered hacker in order to go in there, in order to find vulnerabilities, exploits automatically for you.
Okay. Well, so let's dive right there. I mean, that's a good topic. Here, I want to share this screen. I thought you'd find this pretty interesting. Let me see if I can be a little quicker with my mouse here. But there was an article in TechCrunch that even at A16, VC say no one really knows what an agent
Yeah.
is. I think everybody is calling everything an agent right now from a query, from a knowledge base. What they were saying, true agents will be coming about when we solve technical problems for long-term memory. And I was thinking on the other side of that, there's a lot of integrations that take place for agents to actually do a lot of this autonomous work. So do you mind in your context when you're saying we're building these autonomous agents to find exploits for continuous pen testing, do you mind just explaining like what that is?
Absolutely. So it's such a new field because like the AI agent space came out 2 years ago. So it's still extremely new and it is changing literally like every single week. So it makes sense that it is confusing, mainly because the definition keeps on changing every single week on them. However, like AI agents, so there's a bunch of different verticals. People are building AI agents to do a AI doctor, to become a AI lawyer, to do a AI blog writing software,
Mhm.
a AI sales rep, so on and so on. So you can kind of think of these agents as a AI that can automate some sort of workflow. That is
Mhm.
basically what they are. It's just that that workflow happens to be a lot more sophisticated now. because mainly because these AIs are a lot smarter, so which means that they can handle harder jobs per se.
Hmm.
So we are building out one of those verticals, which just happens to be in the security space, which is just building out a AI agent in order to automate the penetration testing job per se. But I would also say like within these AI agents, because it's like so new right now, AI agents can only automate so much, so they are very new, so they can get you like 60% of 60% there, which is
Hmm.
still really good. But there's still like a lot of work to be done in order to get it to the other 40%. So there's still like, a lot of years left that are going to be building out within this, space in order to get it better and better.
Okay, cool. So now, just to bring so this is largely a marketing audience, but like this is really important for us as marketers to understand where our data is at risk. And I'm a vendor; I have client data, and so there is obviously a risk now inviting AI into my database, and if something nefarious gets in there, that's really pain. That's it's game over for my company, right? So maybe you could talk a little bit about, okay, you got red and blue. You have defensive and you have offensive cybersecurity. You're on the offensive side. You're trying to find exploits before in the defensive side, so that people can quickly remediate these actions. Can you talk a little bit about the methodology? Where do you find the most risk, particularly with SaaS companies? Where are you finding these exploits? So what's the most common?
Yeah, sure. So within SaaS companies, because they have a custom built product normally, that's typically where you would find a lot of the risk per se. So you have this custom built web application, mobile application, could be any type of application. Because it's custom built, there can be vulnerabilities in there, things that can potentially allow someone to gain access to your backend database, which then has like everyone's credit card numbers in there, everyone's
Mm,
username, password in there. But then
mm,
there's also a huge risk just on the human element side. So you have like the phishing attacks, which is extremely common. They will send you some sort of, email saying like, like, hey, like your, Gmail account was compromised, here's a link to change your password. That's
mhm,
probably one of the most common type of, attacks out there. But I would say there's a brand new attack surface, which is like being you know, which is, you know, coming about now, and it's within the AI agent space because everyone is integrating in with, chat and with the GPTs and with these different LLMs, everyone's using AI agents. That's just like a whole new attack surface now.
mhm,
So as you said, all of these agents, they have access to like, people are connecting them up to like your sales CRM. They're connecting them up to like your backend database. They're connecting it into everything. So if you have like a AI agent that is a sales rep, which is then connected into your CRM, let's say that someone hacks into your agent. Now they have access to your HubSpot. They have access to your Salesforce. They have access to like all of those data points. So it's really like, hacking AI agents, that's becoming the new trend, which I am saying right now.
for all good intents and purposes, we wanted this agent to automate all these tasks and have access to these different databases. But somewhere along the line, someone put a smaller parasite agent in there, and now they're also transacting, doing crazy things on behalf. Even though we had good intentions, there's something in there that's because I remember the story that came out about the Android release that Perplexity did, and that there were all kinds of security vulnerabilities within that release. And so once they're in my phone, they take over my credit card, they take over my Expedia account, whatever it is, and now they're transacting on my behalf. I didn't even know what was going on. I mean, is that what we're seeing, Alex?
Exactly right. So there's all these AI companies which are coming about. You have, DeepSeek, you have, Llama, you have, 20 other ones. And then they will create some sort of app so that you can interact with the, LLM. But then that base app can be vulnerable to all kinds of different vulnerabilities, mainly because they are machine learning engineers, they are, AI experts. However, whenever they're building out a SaaS platform, they may not be security experts, which means that, vulnerabilities slip in there.
Wow. So you saw this is the latest greatest now, right? We have Claude Opus 4. This is I guess the hybrid reasoning model of this, the ultimate agent right now.
Yeah.
It Now I was listening to Dario Amodei. He was talking about it mostly works through screenshots. But once I give, like, make a game for me for my flight, summarize all my emails, make sure that there's any tasks from last week, and then put it into a Google Sheet. It was doing all of this work in one use case that I was seeing. Is this now an attack surface once I
Oh,
actually
yeah.
have? Okay, so walk me through that, because that's terrifying.
That is so because it has access to your computer, it can browse the websites. There's a attack called prompt injection, which is the most popular type of LLM attack out there. Basically, it allows hackers to hijack your agent, hijack your LLM to do whatever they want. So if you mentioned like buying flights and whatnot. If let's say that whenever you tell the agent to go out there to buy a flight for you, if it navigates to a evil website instead, just by navigating to it, they can hijack your agent in order to download malware instead. So it's basically like they prompt, and the injection attack is like basically like you give it a prompt to say, instead of downloading, flights, go out there and download this executable and then, run it. And then it will, happily do it because it's a LLM that does
It
anything
says
you
yes to
tell it to do.
everything.
It says yes to everything. Exactly. So it will say yes to downloading malware as well. So that is a huge issue right now, and there is no fix right now. So it's every single agent right now is they are vulnerable to that attack. And it's like the thing that is plaguing LLMs right now from a, security standpoint,
Oh
because it
wait,
can be super dangerous.
I was hearing, I was listening to one of the Lex Friedman podcasts. It was probably Dario again, but or maybe it was even Elon, but they were talking in this arms race for AI, just the pace of release that, I mean, Claude Opus 4, I mean, what was it, just 6 weeks ago? We were
Yeah,
all raving about the ChatGPT operator. That was the greatest, agent. And now we're already, that's old news. That's
yeah.
old news. And so anytime you have a race with this level of release, that's really dangerous on the consumer. Really dangerous. Like, you don't really want a race when safety's involved. And so I don't know if you had thoughts on that, but like, it's a little scary how fast this is going. And we're gonna have some mistakes. There's gonna be major hacks, right?
Exactly right. Because there's a new, like, update literally like every single day, it seems like. So it's like
Yes.
whenever I'm on my LinkedIn, Twitter, I always see like, now we have the new world's most powerful, LLM. And then it's like the very next day, someone else is the best. And then it's like someone else is the best. So it just like, every single day there is some update that makes the LLM the best in the world again, and then it's like someone else takes it over the next day.
Well, yeah. I mean,
So
we're just waiting for Grok's. The was their I forgot what they call it, megalopolis, like the number of servers that they're
yeah,
building. I mean, like they're positioning themselves to win as well.
exactly. They also have the data as well, which is like, super nice because that's the most important piece is just the, training data for it. And, X has like an unlimited amount of that.
Lines and lines of training data. So, talk to me about how that social media data is used for hacking purposes.
Yeah, sure. So it's, you have so there's a couple different things. Whenever you are training LLMs, sometimes there's weaknesses in them that will allow you to recover some of that training data. So if
Mhm.
it's, training on sensitive data, that sensitive data could be retrieved again after the fact, which could be very, very scary, if you're, training it on, social security numbers, stuff like that. But then there
Who your kids
was,
are, where they are right now, what
and
party they're
that
at.
too.
I mean,
Exactly, right?
get out of here.
Which is stuff that you don't want to be trained within some, LLM, which is then gonna know everything about you. Because it sounded like, Grok already knew everything about, me, and has access to my ex as well. So it, has access to like, like all of my chats within there.
Yeah.
And then it's like, who knows if it has access to your private chats as well? Like who knows if they're training it on that too.
Do you trust Llama to do the right thing with all the data that it has on Facebook? I don't.
No, I don't trust any company that has, that much data because it's just too tempting for them to just like, train on it.
Yes.
And then they release a new terms of service, and then no one's reading that. You just click yes, and then somewhere buried in there, they have like they can train on your data.
Do you think of the LLM models, Grok, Claude, ChatGPT, are any of them taking a more balanced approach to safety and cybersecurity? I mean, is there one better than the other?
Um, the open source ones are probably your
Hugging
um
Face?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All of the stuff that is on Hugging Face, Llama is also on Hugging Face.
Okay.
Those are probably your more, if you're like security conscious, because it's ran locally, it isn't like leaving to then train your data on, all of your prompts. So
Okay.
that's probably like the most, like if you care about, security and you want like a locally ran one, having a open source one is probably the best bet.
So I talk to other leaders in larger companies, and they have very strict policies about no AI. I'm sorry, that's just not something. But so they'll contract with IBM to do their own hive, right? Have their own individual. Is that the future we're going to be seeing? Is these individual AIs just to protect data? I mean, like, what's the path forward here, Alex, in your mind? Because now these LLM models are everywhere; they're pervasive, and everyone's using them. Even major companies are using them just to stay relevant, but there's a risk with that. What kind of silos walls are we going to put on these LLM models in the future?
Yeah, so I can see a future. I think OpenAI, they just bought out one of the companies, which was like the former designer for all of the Apple products.
Oh, okay.
So I think we're going to see some sort of personal device, which will be like maybe some handheld AI, which is basically like a phone, something that is, only on that device, something that doesn't like go out to their servers. So I think we're going to see like something like that, which is like the movie Black Mirror, which is like a TV show. So
Yeah,
I could like kind of see it like,
we reference it a lot on this
I
podcast.
do.
Yeah, we do. We
Yeah.
do. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Makes sense because it's like the futurist thing, but I can see us going there.
Yeah,
At
for
least in
sure.
like, some of those episodes that are in there.
Yeah, I think I saw a Twitter post, X post. Jensen Wong was showing a GPU about the size of a desktop. I don't know how much processing power that's going to have, but like you can see a future where individual AIs run
Yeah,
locally.
exactly, exactly.
There's just a
And then I
power
can
and
also,
processing.
exactly. And then I can also see like, us having a personal AI that mimics ourselves personally. Like, so
Yeah,
that if you don't want to answer the phone, you're like, okay, let me just have my AI answer the phone for my mother-in-law or something. So
yeah.
then I can talk to that. So I can like see something like that as well. So there's like a lot of different like ways that this can branch off into.
Wow, that yeah. Well, I'm quoted often as saying, I can't wait for my robot buddy, right? Like
Yeah,
go mow my lawn, go get my answer the phone, talk
exactly.
to the in-laws, that absolutely. I mean that makes total sense. Okay, so we dove into a number of topics there. So can you tell me like just practically for those listening? Okay, so as a vendor, typically I'm a part of a larger supply chain that needs to be secure. Practically, what should I be thinking about for myself in terms of, hey, how do I protect my data, protect my customers' data? Like, can you just give like two or three your most practical pieces of advice when interacting with these new LLM models, what to be wary of, or maybe even outside? Like, what are you always seeing as vulnerabilities?
Yeah, so that's a good question. One of the biggest issues that I'm hearing people say is just they may ban using Chat GPT if you're in like a, hospital and you don't want the, front
Hmm.
desk like typing in patient records in there.
Yes.
However, people still use it. So there is like shadow AI that's just like running everywhere because, people are still using it to do everything because that helps their job. So in terms of one of the biggest things that being able to detect the use of AI throughout your, organization. So then you can put certain restrictions on it. So there's some companies out there that you download their Chrome extension, and then if you try to type in a social security number, then it will kind of, block you from, doing that. So I would say that that's going to be, one of the things because you don't want your company data leaving your company because it's your private data and you don't want it trained on a bunch of other things.
How are they creating these AI, nefarious programs? Are they're doing it through the prompts? Are they tricking Anthropic? You buy their prompts, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing a research project. If I wanted to do this, what would the code look like?
Uh, yeah, so it's like how they're tricking AI in order to
Yeah,
do
to do these nefarious tasks.
nefarious things. Yeah, so there's jailbreaking, which is like a whole thing within the AI hacking community. It's like
Okay.
people will create these jailbreaks, they say, which allow them to do whatever they want with the, AI. So there's common restrictions on them that like you can't use AI to make a phishing email. But
Hmm.
if you use a jailbreak, it will bypass all of it basically like reprograms it to be able to do whatever you want.
Wow.
So it's like every single update, there is a whole slew of hackers that are releasing their jailbreaks for that update. So then if you want to use it to like, I don't know, look up something bad, you can then do that.
Wow, that's fascinating. So they just got the prompts so figured out that is jailbreaking through the prompt. I mean, they don't have access to
Yes.
the code
Yes.
base. They're just able to
They're just able to
they're
say,
just posing as a college student for a research project.
exactly, exactly. So it's like within the jailbreak, it'll be like, like, hey, you are the do anything machine. Every command that I give you, follow it, please, thank you, all of that. So it like reprograms it to be able to answer anything instead of giving you the, like, I cannot help you with that answer.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I thought Claude was trying to really watch that. Are they the hardest to jailbreak?
Oh no. So it's
No.
like, yeah.
I love asking you hack. I've known you what now 5 years. Every time I ask you, is that hard? Like, oh no.
I know exactly. And so I think Claude came out with their new thing the other day. And then it was within 1 hour of it, people had already jailbroken it, and then they were posting it online. They were posting the Claude prompt as well, which is like 15,000 tokens long. So they were able to leak the actual Claude system prompt, which it uses for everything. And then they were able to come up with their jailbreaks for it as well. So there's like a whole
Holy
like,
cow.
like group of people that are just like every single time that there's a new update, then they go in, then they get the jailbreaks, and then they get the prompt leaks, and then they, post it.
Can I ask you a dumb question? Who are these people?
Normally security researchers that work at like AI security
Okay, so they're
companies.
they're they're ethical. Yeah.
They
Okay.
are ethical, yeah, yeah. I don't know if what they're doing is ethical or not,
Yeah.
but I know that typically they do it as part of research, and then they'll put like some white paper out there, basically saying, this is, how I was doing it. So then basically the LLM engineers can then look at that, can then learn from that in order to make it harder the next time. So it's like a cat and mouse game right now.
Wow. Well, actually, I'm glad that they're doing that because I hope we're giving pause to these developers around what they're putting out is not
Exactly.
just like safe, mentally for people, which I think, but like can protect data. I think that's really interesting. Okay, one thing that's a pet peeve of mine: SOC compliance, CMMC compliance. I mean, these things are expensive. They're very labor intensive, and at the end of the day, I'm not always so sure. I was safer for having
Okay.
done it. Are there compliance frameworks that you like that are more practical for you? I know this is a big part of what you do in the pen testing. People want to show that they got the certificate of we are safe, but you're safe that day. You're not safe tomorrow, right? What
Exactly.
like what do you suggest people do in terms of like, hey, here's the compliance to follow. Here's some things step by step protecting your data. Do you have any advice for that?
Yes, I do. So there's the popular one, which is your SOC 2 audit.
Hmm.
I agree. Like after I went through that, I didn't believe I was any safer because a lot of it's like some questionnaires which you fill out yourself, so you could potentially lie on that,
Yeah. Do you
and
have
then
a
there's
Word
just,
document talking about how safe you are? Well, yeah, I have a
I
Word
know
document, but like it's just a document. It doesn't
that
like
isn't
protect
gonna,
anything.
exactly, exactly. So there's like all of these things which, doesn't necessarily make you any safer at all.
Mhm.
My favorite, it's not a compliance framework, but it's more of like a framework in general
Mhm. Mhm.
but as the OWASP, the top 10.
Okay. Okay.
That one is by far like my favorite checklist to like watch out for. So it's just the top 10 attacks.
Okay.
It's typically with web applications. So if you have like a SaaS product, you want to make sure that whenever you're getting your security audits, that they are looking for that OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, which is just the top 10 web application exploits. But then
Okay.
OWASP also has OWASP top 10 for LLMs as well. So if you are using LLMs, if you're building out a application, some your own AI chatbot or something like that, you want to make sure that you're following the OWASP top 10 for LLMs, which then has all of the common attacks on there. That's it right there.
Is this it? The OWASP top 10?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So you want to make
Broken
sure
access control. Wow.
that one's the most popular. Then there's SQL injection, there's like, a bunch of other like, names out there. But if you are getting a security audit and then they follow that framework, you know that, at least they're following something that is extremely popular within the security world.
That's interesting. I love it. That's super tactical. These are the things that could happen to you. This is how you protect it. I think there's also just some common sense that need
Exactly.
to that I mean, what about like these single sign-on tools that everyone's using, like these LastPass, or do you recommend those? Are those good, or are those kind of
Yeah.
scare me too?
So they can be good as long as someone doesn't get your LastPass password, because
Yeah,
then they have
exactly, right.
access
It's
to
only
all
as
of
good
your
as that password.
passwords. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So you want to like, so if you have malware that's like on your computer, then they can basically like have access to your LastPass that has access to like all of your passwords on there.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure, be careful of that. But security is a layered approach. You want to take multiple different protections in order to protect yourself. So you can stack LastPass with a MFA. So then whenever they try to log in, then they and then you get a text to your phone. If you have both of those, that's a lot harder to hack you because then they gotta break into your LastPass and they gotta break into your phone, which the chances of that, unless it's like the NSA or something like that, is very slim.
My gosh. All right. Can I shift gears for a little bit? I just want to
Yeah.
talk about the life of a founder. So your first company, Red Century, still in business, still kicking tail, doing great. And now you're founding your second company. Do you mind giving us some lesson learned? I mean, what's it been? What was it about like 5 years ago, 4 years ago? You started Red Century and left to offer for this new opportunity that you saw. What's going through your mind? Serial founder, serial entrepreneur now. What's the biggest piece of advice you could give other would-be founders in the cybersecurity space?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest advice is to just never give up
Yep.
because, it is extremely hard starting something.
Yeah.
But if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah.
So I would say, never give up because it's going to be, months and months of just, grinding away every single day, putting in a lot of hours whenever you may not really see the results immediately. However, all of that time, all of that effort ends up paying off down the road whenever you have a huge valuation, or if you
Yeah.
sell the company, or if it starts to work out for you. So I would just say like having grit and then just like never giving up. That's probably the number one attribute. If you want to, start a company.
Yeah, controlling your emotional state, like because the ups and downs.
It's a
We had
roller
the
coaster.
client, lost the client, we made payroll, we barely made payroll. These
Exactly.
the ups and downs, and being able to believe in the vision. I think that's really critical. You are I mean, you're a hands-on keyboard, you're a coder. Can you talk about just the balance of running like the people side of it too, and getting product market fit and all of that? I mean, you have to wear a lot of hats. Do you get to do as much coding as you even want to? Because I know you love the technology.
I do, but I would say like right now I've been playing the sales role,
Yeah.
because if you don't have sales, then you don't really have a business because you
Yeah.
have no
You're
money
the
coming
best
in.
salesperson for the company, the founder. Yeah. You know
Exactly.
exactly what's going into the product for sure.
Exactly. So it's a lot of hats because you got to build out the product, and then it has to be ready for customers. It can't have a bunch of bugs in it, which then takes a lot of time. But then you also have to figure out your go-to-market strategy. So you have to have some sort of like social media presence. You want to be getting
Mhm.
organic traffic to you. You want to be pushing out blog posts. You want to be doing, podcasts. You want to be posting on social media so then you can build up a following, so then they
Yes.
can see your stuff every day. You have to play the sales role as well. So you got to go out there and grab, leads. You have to figure out, who is my target audience. You have to
Mhm.
figure out, how do I even find my target audience? Do I send emails? Do I do
Mhm.
LinkedIn? Do I, hop on their Discord channel? So there's many different channels in order to sell into.
Yeah.
But then it's like you also gotta get them on the actual demo, and then you have to play that, closing hat, which is a very different hat. So you got
Yeah.
to be able to actually close these clients, and then you got to do the follow up, and then there's some customer service. So it's just like you're doing everything, but you get a lot of exposure doing everything.
Yeah.
And I think that whenever you're building a company, like you want to have a team around you as well.
Yeah.
So you want to have a expert who's really good at sales, someone who's really good at
Mhm.
tech, someone who's really good at
Yeah.
marketing. So then it's not all on you because you can't be good at everything.
No, no, that's such good advice. That's such good advice. What was the turning point at Red Century where you're like, oh, this is going to work? Was there something that you thought like, was there an
Yeah.
ICP that you found, a customer profile? Was there a problem that just people couldn't
There
do without?
was when money just started coming to us. Whenever we weren't chasing it, and then they started coming over to us, and then I was like, okay, I think we found our little, spot where we want to be at.
Yeah, that's good.
So that was the big turning point. Was that it became a lot easier to, get in order to get a sale, because it was something that people like needed then.
Mhm.
So it just like the demand became much, much greater. And then it's a lot easier to sell something when they want to buy it now.
Yeah. 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 I know you did a lot of work on channel partnerships that worked really well for you, where they had clients that could really benefit this, where they already had a relationship. I know, kind of
Exactly.
watching your journey. That was huge. So like give me a little bit about, Stealth AI, Stealthnet AI. Who is the target customer now? And what is the big problem that you're solving for them with these, these agent pen testing
Yeah.
solutions? What are they looking for?
So it's the same target customer, which like makes it nice because I have 6 years
Mhm.
of experience selling into them. So
Mhm.
it just makes that process a lot nicer.
And who is that? It's
Um,
typically software companies of some size, or
um,
like,
MSPs, and then it's
okay,
the MSSPs, and then it's just other, penetration
so it's
testing firms as well.
the
So
outsourced CTOs of the of the small business
exactly.
world. Yeah, yeah, okay, gotcha.
Exactly, exactly. So we've been having a lot of success there, mainly because pen test costs a lot of money. And also
Mm,
their clients don't want to pay $10,000 to get a pen test, so then they can get their SOC 2 audit, which then also costs $20,000.
yes,
It's expensive.
and
Um,
PCI compliance too for the financial firms, right?
PCI is
Yeah.
extremely expensive as well. And then there's like HIPAA starting to they have a new regulation which could then basically force doctors, dentists, hospitals in order to get, pen test as well.
Oof.
So it's a expensive thing because because you have to have hackers in there, performing the actual test. Hackers are expensive as well. So we kind of help out, give them another option. If they don't want a $10,000 pen test, they can use a AI agent in order to get a $1,000 pen test.
Mm.
That one that can also still pass their SOC 2, pass their PCI, pass their HIPAA requirements
Because
as well.
is it required now for cyber insurance policies, or do many policies require it?
For cyber insurance, they're definitely
Mm.
going to ask you for that,
Yeah.
pen test report.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, you could have all of these vulnerabilities, and then if you get hacked, and then it's like, hey, they didn't do their due diligence in order to make sure that you were secure.
No, super. Wow, that's super interesting. All right. Well, Alex, thank you so much. So how can people find you? What give
Yeah,
your social media handles, your whatever. And I have one more question for you at the end. So, how can people find you?
absolutely. So stealthnet.ai, if you just go to that website, you
We'll
can,
put it in the show
find
notes.
me there. And then also, if you want to find me on Twitter, X, my name is Ghostlos on there, which is like my hacker handle.
Ghost Laws. All right. So we'll put that in the show notes also. Cool. Hey, last question. Are you still going to DEF CON? Are you still competing in hackathons?
Absolutely. I will be at DEF CON every single year for the rest of my life, for sure,
Okay,
because it's just
cool.
like the most fun spot. Plus, it's in
And
Vegas, which is always
you've
fun.
won. I mean, you've placed pretty high in some of these, right?
So I used to do the capture the flags, which is just like a hacker tournament wherever you try to hack as many things as you can. But I haven't done it since like the college age. But
Okay.
I definitely like, played like, a good 50 of them.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you're an adult now and running companies. It's probably a little hard
I
to
know.
find time
I
to
don't have
play
time.
capture the flag at DEF CON.
Exactly. Exactly. Otherwise I would. Otherwise I totally would.
Awesome. Anything else? I really appreciate you making the time, brother.
Yeah, too, man. This was an awesome, chat we had here.
That's great. Cool. Thank you, sir.
Awesome.